back to another video. Today on this episode, we'll be talking to you about how to make distinctions in your masters. All right. So you have gotten the admission from our last study. We talked about how the process of actually getting your admission to do your masters in the UK. You've gotten your master's admission and you've come to study. How do you actually go about making your distinctions, which I believe that's what you want in your master's program? I'm joined again by my friend and colleague, Franklin. My name is Arinze. I have a PhD in computer science. I did my master's in the University and graduated with a distinction. And I'm working currently as a lead data scientist. Franklin, can you also introduce yourself to our audience?
Hi everyone, my name is Franklin Oleha. I have a first degree as a software engineer with first class, the MSc as a data scientist with distinction. Currently working with the UK government as a machine learning engineer and a data scientist.
Excellent. That's great. So we thought it wise to actually take out an episode for us to go into the nitty-gritty details of making a distinction, making distinctions in your masters. You don't just want to make pass. You just don't want to pass. You want to excel, right? And so, what are those ingredients? What are those criteria for you to pass your MSc course? We have called it sort of the anatomy of distinction. In other words, the various things that you need to do. One thing, having been a student and a lecturer myself in the course of my study, I have come to realize that there is a pattern of success, right? It's not just 1 + 1 = 2. No, it's not just you describing something like you're doing an essay in secondary school or maybe even during your first degree. No, for a master's evaluation, you have to apply critical thinking. All right. You have to, when you're given a coursework, which we'll come into, when given a coursework to do, you have to think through it, introduce your own idea of how that problem can be solved, and then write up that coursework or exam based on your own understanding. In other words, you are evaluated not just on the right result, as it were, like 1 + 1 = 2, but how did you arrive at that 1 + 1 being equal to 2? That is the critical evaluation aspect. So when you are writing up a dissertation or a coursework, you've gone to the library, you've read, and now you are piecing together the knowledge, the understanding, and you are synthesizing all these in writing to let the lecturer know that you understood or that you've understood what was asked. And you are not just trying to define something. No, it goes beyond definitions and descriptions. It's about critical evaluation, injection of value. In other words, novelty, what you've understood into that work that you are doing. So I thought it wise that we should clarify this, because this then comes to bear in the courses that you actually get to do. Okay. We're going to talk to you about the actual courses that we did. All right. So myself, when I did my master's program in the University, there were 8 modules, but today they've been streamlined down to 4, and it's been 4 modules for a number of years. So 2 modules in your first semester, 2 modules in your second semester, and 1 final project, each module being 30 credits, and your final project being 60 credits. So altogether, they sum up to this 180 credits units for your master's program. All right. So which course or which courses did I excel in? and which ones did I make a distinction in. I'll talk to you about a course called, it's currently called Enterprise Architecture in De Montfort University. So if you look up Masters in Information Systems Management, which is what I studied then, is currently, there are currently 4 modules, and this would fall under Enterprise Architecture module, right? But back then, it was called Systems, Operating Systems and Networks. And for this particular course, it was a very, very interesting course, right? It had to do with programming or writing Unix scripts that actually did something. In that particular coursework, the actual coursework then was about designing a system, a grading system for the university using only Unix scripts, all right? A grading system for the university. So a system where people can input their names and details, and the system would grade them and then show them the grades based on their scores, all right, in that case. So one of the things that I did for that course to excel in it, to make a distinction, was that I went above and beyond. Now, and again, this is the thing, like this is common. If you're going to excel and make a distinction, you won't just want to do what you've been asked to do, but to go above and beyond, all right? So in my own program, I ensured that it wasn't just doing the baseline, but I had come to a level through all the research that I was able to do, all the Google search. There were no chat GPT then and all that stuff, but you know, through synthesized research, wrote up first of all the theories about it, and then went into the actual coding and the results, and then we had to present these findings and how the system works to the lecturer, who would then grade us based on how it worked. All right. So I went into the aspect of ensuring that this worked, it graded, you know, properly. I understood the various aspects of the code, the functions that actually generated the grading, the ones that generated the input, the ones that, you know, where each function resides, and how everything ties up together. Of course, you're going to be doing something completely different for your own coursework and your own analysis. But the objective here is to make a distinction. You have to go above and beyond. You have to introduce your own novelty, and you have to show that you've set yourself apart. I made this, I had a score of, I think it was 90 for that particular project, for that particular coursework. It was a coursework only course or module. And then just before I introduce Franklin, I wanted us to talk to you also about courseworks and exams. Okay, so Franklin, I wanted to talk to our viewers about courseworks and exams, because today some modules have exams, which I will talk about the next module. Some don't have exams. So what are those things that a student can do to ensure that they excel in their courseworks as well?
Yeah, thank you. I'll quickly add to what Dr. Arinze said earlier. For my school, I did 4 modules, you know, then with MSc project. So one of the course that I did, I would say 2 that I did excellently on, the advanced database, machine learning, and data mining. So if you want an excellent result, you have to be exceptional in what you're doing. You have to take time to study outside your lecture. What you learn in class only is not enough for you to get a grade. You need extra study. You ought to be known in the library. You ought to be known in the library. Let the librarian know you. That means that you are frequent there. You come there often. You come to study. You can spend like maybe night reading. You know, you have to put more effort. You know, I heard some people want to like think of outsourcing. It doesn't really work. If you try to outsource, yeah, you might get that grade, but you can't defend the certificate because here in the UK, nobody want to look at a certificate. They want to know how you can do it, what you can do. Each of the interview I've attended, they want it's hands-on practical. They want to know what I can do. I have to discuss how I did what I did. So you have to put more effort, not just know how, try to find out why as well. That's one aspect about me. I try to find out why. My lecturer known me for that. I ask questions. Don't be there's no question like silly question. What you don't understand, ask question, get understanding. Because if you understand what you're doing, you'll be able to put in your best when writing your coursework. And also, like I was saying, one of my module that I scored 98. After I've gotten the answer required, I did extra work by writing some kind of a code to test what I've done, like outside what I was asked to do, to prove beyond to prove my understanding of the of the module. So those are some of the things you can do to ensure that you able to prove that yes, you understand actually what you're doing by spending more time outside your lecture hour to put in more effort to study and ensure that you're able to get this grade that you required.
Excellent. Excellent. I will talk us through another module. All right. So just like Franklin has said, some modules will just be coursework only. Some will be coursework and exam. Now, I was among those that took exams when I was studying. All right. But today, most of the gradings or evaluations are just based on coursework. But in case you find yourself in a situation where you have a course that is 50% coursework and 50% exam, that means that 50% of your grade will come from your coursework, and then you have to do an exam to make up the other 50%. How do you do these exams? All right. In the same, and this is where I think exam can be quite useful, because just like Franklin said, some people try to outsource their coursework, they don't take it serious, or maybe they find someone else to do it for them and all that, and it defeats the purpose. You are kind of deceiving yourself in that case. But when you come in for an exam, you have to write the exam yourself. And one of the reasons, or one of the things that I realized, at least in this module, the module was called e-commerce systems at the time, but right now, if you go on the school website, it is now called digital transformation. All right. And it's all about how you can introduce digital means to a tech firm or a tech organization to transform that whole ecosystem. All right, that is what it's all about, in that particular module. What did I do for this module? This was one of the modules that was 50% coursework and 50% exam, as at the time I was studying. How did I do my coursework? We were given a coursework around how companies would excel by introduction of e-commerce system or digital systems into their company. Now, instead of just what most people did was they just found things online and wrote up their coursework and submitted. Right, that's fine, but that didn't actually get them an A. Right, I went above and beyond to look out for a company that I could do this small research with, this coursework with, right? I found a company, met with the managers, interviewed them, told them what we are doing, asked them critical questions. So I prepared a questionnaire, essentially. I went there to gather data that I was going to analyze for this coursework, all right? And then wrote it up, analyzed the data, wrote it up, and put all these things nicely. Also introduced the concept. At the time, it was called 5 forces. All right, Porter's 5 forces. So you have all these business analytical ways of analyzing businesses. All right. So I included all that. I didn't just do what other students did. I did a little bit extra work, which
Yeah.
set me apart from the rest of the students. And the lecturer at the time, after grading me very highly, asked me whether he could use my coursework as a template for the next batch of students. Okay, for the next batch of students, so that becomes what to expect of other students, because the coursework, that module was one of the modules that people didn't do so well in the school at the time. In fact, it was so bad that the student union team came together and met with the dean of the faculty, and they came to the resolution that they were going to add 5 marks to everybody so that it could boost people's pass rate. And by the time the 5 marks was added, I also got it, of course, and graduated with in that course, I think with about 85% in total. So I was already excelling, and with the 5% increase, I emerged with high distinction. Why? Because I took my time to do something completely different. I wasn't looking at what others were doing. So if you're going to excel in your distinction, you have to think a little bit outside the box. Don't just describe things. Add knowledge, add intuition, add novelty to your work, and it will show, because the lecturer himself or herself may not even know that level of detail or knowledge of what you are about to do. So it would evidently reflect on your work. And myself, I've graded people to distinction level and to pass and all that, from 40 to 80 or 8 and above, right? So I happen to know as well why people are graded highly when they set themselves apart. Okay, I said before in our previous episode, I was a lecturer of MSc Artificial Intelligence when I was doing my PhD. So all these things will set you apart in your masters
Yeah.
when you are doing your study. Frankly, you wanted to
Yes.
talk to us about another
Another
course?
thing,
Yeah.
you should ensure that mindset also matters. If you're studying your course, you should aim at what you want to get. Don't settle to pass. Have the mindset that you are going to graduate with the distinction. If you have that mindset, you find yourself working towards it. And secondly, that will direct you to meet the kind of people that will have that same mindset like you. Then you not choose your friends. People that you are studying with. Like when I graduated, we were about 5, but we all graduated with distinction because we had the same mindset. We were exceptional. We were not studying to pass. We were studying to get distinction. So when you have that mindset first, position yourself to have that mindset, then get your team. Even your team will work, they will find you as well. They will know that you have the same mindset. Then you all can work together, study together, do the sleep night together. At the end, you have that result. Your team matters a lot. There are some that just want to say, like, oh, I just want to pass this month, that's all I want. That should not be the kind of person you should associate with if you need a distinction. So your mindset matters, and people that you choose as your friend, they also matter as well.
Excellent, excellent. Just before we wrap up today's episode, when you have done your master's modules that we've just discussed, and of course you have excelled and succeeded with distinctions, what about your project? Your project is a very, very big one, right? This is 60 credit unit, right? If you make an A in your project, most likely, depending on your other modules, you're going to make an A and eventually a distinction in your master's. But if you don't do well in your project, that's a very, very big deal, right? So how do you excel to distinction levels in your project? Now, this is not an exhaustive list by any stretch of the imagination, but we're trying to tell you exactly what we did as much as possible, right? So one of the things that I realized in my own assessment is a good supervisor matters, right? Because I had friends that their supervisors were not very helpful and all that and all that, and they didn't do so well in their masters, right? So a good supervisor matters. That's number one. So you need to find a supervisor that is knowledgeable in your area that you want to do your project on. Okay, that's number one. Number two, you will now choose a topic. Now, in some universities or in some situations, you are given a topic
Topic,
or a
yeah.
list of topics to choose. In some other cases, you are allowed to come up with a topic yourself that will then be assessed by your supervisors. And if it's good enough, you are given a green light to research on that topic. In my own particular case, I was among those that came up with some topics, and one of them was approved for my master's dissertation. Now, my own master's thesis at the time was the topic was implementation of cloud computing in an African country, a case study of Galaxy Backbone PLC Nigeria. All right. So for that master's thesis, I traveled back to this company in Abuja, Nigeria, to carry out this investigation, to carry out this research. Right. So I prepared questions and questionnaire which I had designed and signed off with my supervisor. I got ethical approval from the university to go and carry out this research. I did all the paperwork and all that and signed off, and then went to Nigeria, spent a couple of weeks doing this research. I came back with findings, analyzed, and then wrote up my dissertation. So I just want to walk you briefly because we want to give you practical insight in actually making your dissertation. So just a quick snippet of how this would look like. All right. You will typically have an introduction chapter in your dissertation. All right. So that will you talk about an overview, your project motivation, project objectives, project scope. Then your chapter 2 is typically your research or literature review. So you could call it literature review, you could call it background and related research. And then you want to take some time to dig into what has been done previously about this research area. Okay. This would typically generate or give rise to the research question or questions which your research is trying to address. Okay. Now, once you've come up with your research questions and the need for research in that area, then you want to explore the various methods. This is now what leads to your chapter 3, called research methodology, typically. All right. You want to look at various methods of doing this research, quantitative methods, qualitative methods, data generation methods, and all that, right? If you are doing something in the programming space, let's say in machine learning, for example, you must have researched into supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and various other methods like, small vector machine, gradient boosting methods, and so many things depending on what your research area is. After doing all this research and analyzing various methods, you then have to justify why you have chosen a particular method for your research as a method of analysis, for example. So in machine learning, which frankly you're going to talk to us about, why did you use XGBoost or support vector machine or dynamic Bayesian network like I use in my PhD, to do this research? Why not these other methods? You have to justify it in writing, okay, as part of your research. Now, in chapter 4, which is typically your research analysis and findings or results section, okay, you now want to talk about how you analyze your results and the findings. Okay, so you have picked a method from chapter 3. You are now using that method in chapter 4 to analyze your data. Okay, so if you're using a software, of course, you have to justify as well how what the software is about and why you are using that particular software. Okay, so you come up with your analysis, your technical analysis. In my own case, and why it is beneficial and the analysis and all that. And you have then justified your results so that somebody that is looking at this work will know that you have spent some time to think about it and you've come up with new insights, all right, some kind of novelty. And from a PhD standpoint, novelty can be in the form of method, it can also be in the form of the data or the mixture of data and method that you have put together to create novelty. All right. So if you're going to publish this, for example, in any of the conference papers or journals and all that, they want to see all this. All right. So you want to do your research to excel. Okay. If you have PhD colleagues that can just kind of reiterate some of these things that I've just said, that will really, really be helpful. All right. But this is what you need to do to make a good distinction in your master's thesis. And of course, chapter 5 will be your conclusion. So how do you then conclude from all these results? You know, how, what are the findings and what are the next steps? All right. Recommendations and next steps and all that. So you put all this together, and working with your supervisor, of course, you would most likely make a very good distinction. You know, so Franklin, do you want to summarize on how you also made distinction in your own thesis or project?
Yeah. And let me quickly add to that. You know, for me, I did live projects. So then I did it. I was assigned to a company. I was given a project which I executed. What I did was it was an NGO. What I did is about human trafficking. So they gave me their model to enhance. You know, it was around 70%. So I was able to enhance the model to 82%. So this was about cohesion model, like checking cohesive words in article. So yeah, I did all that for this company, and I sure like it was. We have to, after I completed the project, we have the option like it was integrated into their system. So I did my own work to like create a visualization app just to simulate this work for non-stakeholders, you know, because they needed to see how this work. So I didn't just report it only. I created a mini app, you know, for the stakeholder to see how it works. So all these added to my thesis, those added to my grade. So doing this, the stakeholder were able to have those are non-technical. They were able to really understand, not just know how it works. They see me demonstrating how it works by running raw article into the system, then receiving the output with the prediction and all the score, because it was a multi-label pictures. So yeah, so that is just the summary of it. As Dr. said, you have to put more effort, ensure that you create that time, you make your work exceptional. Follow those process. If you are be assigned to live project, which I always encourage, because that will expose you to how it is done in the industry. That will give you that first advantage of having kind of industrial experience. So if you are allowed to do that, do go for live project, because that will teach you how to do it in the industry, so that when you get industry, you have something to build on. So if you are unable, then you cannot stick to academical project whereby you choose your topic yourself. So if you are going for live project, the company will choose for you what you'll be doing, because they will assign to a project, then you will reset the project, work on it, then report back to your supervisor. So that is all from me.
Excellent, excellent. So that is it all. That's all from us in this episode. I just wanted to touch on, of course, as you're writing your thesis and dissertation, don't forget your references, don't forget your bibliography, appendices, and all that. Do these things in line with your chosen referencing method that your supervisor would help you with. You know, so there are, for example, IEEE referencing method. Just if you choose a referencing method, stick to it and ensure that it's consistent all through.
Have a good relationship with your supervisor, very important. Ensure you meet him often, because that will determine where you stand. If not, you will not get it right. Ensure that you meet him often, him or her.
Exactly. All right. So in our next episode, we'll be talking to us about actually getting a job. What are the processes in applying, in interviewing, in getting a job, your portfolio, for example. All these things. All right. So stay tuned. Stay subscribed. And if you have any question or comments about these things that we have shared, feel free to drop us comments or questions in the comment section. Like it and subscribe. If you found it useful, share it to other people that may also find this useful. We get these questions all the time. I'm currently just today is Sunday. During our service, I'm trying to help someone as well to navigate all these things. So if you find it useful, share, like, and subscribe, and let others know. And then we'll be answering or looking out for your comments in the comment section to answer some of your questions. Until then, we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for watching. See you on the next episode.
Okay, see you. Bye.